But let Kareem's not. Oh.
Hey, there we go.
Oh, I see myself there.
What's going on, y'all? Thank you for joining our Rideshare Drivers United live stream Q&A. I'm one of your organizers. My name is James Hicks.
Hey, my name is Álvaro Bolaines, and I'm also an organizer with Rideshare Drivers United.
Yeah, we got Kareem, who will be here shortly, and we also got our other brother Tyler. Tyler will be here shortly as well. He just had to run in his car real quick. Me and Tyler, we actually had a pretty eventful day, which we will probably talk about a little bit later when he gets here. But we met with the one of the city council members today.
Mm-hmm.
We just kind of wanted to gauge his, his support for our cause and whatnot. So it was really nice. It was really nice. And I'm going to wait till he gets here so we can have a little bit more of a time to talk about that. But I see we got 5 people, and we definitely want to get some questions popping. I'm always looking down at my phone just so I can see the questions.
And I also have the computer so I can read the question here.
So what y'all do today? What was your day like? Was you working today?
No, I didn't drive today. I just stay home doing some other business.
Am I the only person who was working? Was I the only person working today?
You were driving today?
Yeah, I went driving. Of course I went driving. I drive every day about 9 to 5. You know, about 8 to 5. What's up, Tyler? Tyler just walked in the door.
Hi, folks.
Tyler, did you drive here today?
Yes, I did.
So
How else am I supposed to get anywhere around in the city of Los Angeles?
No, for Lyft and Uber. If you drove today.
No.
I'm the only guy that worked today, I think.
I didn't know.
You're speaking for the rest of us.
Oh my gosh. Ben, did you drive today?
Me? No.
Yeah. No, you didn't drive?
I'm here.
Oh.
I don't drive for Wednesday.
You don't drive on Wednesday? Lucky you.
Where should we sit?
Sit right there. That's good right there.
Okay, we're live. Just look at the camera. We're already live.
Howdy, everybody. Am I even in shot?
Yeah, you got. Look at this.
Oh, I see. We got a delay.
Just kind of touch the screen every once in a while, or about once every 10 minutes. It'll turn off otherwise.
Okay, sounds good.
That kind of stinks. So that kind of stinks. And always keep your hand on the machine. That sucks. Oh my gosh. Why can't they come up with better technology?
Okay.
It just works just because it works.
I mean, just like our apps, right?
Hey, does anybody else have a problem with crashing apps on Uber
Oh yeah, all the time.
all the time?
I Lyft, but yeah, it's the same bullshit.
See, because I have a problem, so when I'm driving, I like to sometimes go to my YouTube page, or I like to go to Facebook, just go to a different app, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then every time I'm surfing on a different app, I get back out for 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Then the app will crash on me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then I'm sitting for like 20 minutes waiting for my next ride. Like, what is going on in my app? It's
Yeah,
like,
exactly. And you don't even
That's
know.
crazy.
Howdy, Kareem. Welcome to the show.
Howdy, Tiger.
What's up with this chair right here?
You got a bad chair?
It's like 2 up front.
Do you want to switch chairs? This one's a little bit more chill.
Did you drive today, Kareem?
Huh?
Did you drive today?
I did not drive today. I
Second one.
my car was at the body shop for like a couple weeks, and
Yeah.
I just got my car back today.
I'm the only guy that drove today. That's great.
It's okay, you know.
Great.
I'm pretty sure there were days where we were there when you weren't.
Like what?
I don't know. Some days back there.
I don't drive on Sundays. I try not to drive.
See? So
Yeah, see,
try
like
to drive
every
Saturdays.
Sunday.
I'm
You drive every Sunday?
Yeah.
Well, I did for a long time.
I do sometimes I do Sunday. I try not to, but Sunday's gonna be a little iffy. I like to stay home.
Sundays
spend time with the
is
wife.
an airport day. It's LAX.
Yeah, that's right. All those commuters coming in from out of
Hey,
town.
what's the new thing with LAX on Sundays anyway? Is it an all day thing where you get the $25?
It's not just Sunday, from what I hear.
I know it's Monday too, but
I think it's still midnight, from what I saw on some days. And on other days it's not till midnight.
okay.
Like they have time frame for it.
All right.
it's. I mean, you folks with Uber, like Lyft doesn't give you jack shit.
No.
Lyft just takes and takes and takes.
Listen, Lyft is whack, but so is Uber. Okay.
I mean, both of them
So so yesterday was the first. Yesterday Monday, right? Yes, it's the first time that they unveiled the whole. You get to get $25 out of the airport.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, cool. I'm probably gonna get that. My very first ride took me to Irvine.
See,
That's
that's
the
not
whole
good.
thing.
Oh wow!
That's the whole thing.
So they introduced the promotion to get a lot of volume
I
out of
can't
an
take
airport,
advantage.
and you can't take advantage of it.
That 25 thing is good if you're going to Marina Del Rey, if you're going to Playa
Yeah,
Vista,
I know.
Hawthorne.
This is the
But,
essential core.
Yeah, if it's a long ride and it's a
Yeah,
flat
it's
rate,
useless then, but still.
you're stuck.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the core problem with these companies, right? Like, it's that even their incentive packages where it feels like they're trying to understand your behavior more, they just always miss the mark.
Yeah, they wanted to make sure that I wasn't gonna get it. Like, I got you.
Yeah, exactly.
Get
It's
it out of
it's like when I've done weeks where like I've done 95 rides.
Yeah.
Like it's a Sunday night and
95
like
rides.
95 rides in a week. Like I've been working since like Wednesday.
Yeah.
Like because I take Monday and Tuesdays off as like my weekend because they're kind of slow days.
Let me come sit next to the car. I
Okay.
feel like I'm turning my head away from
Yeah, no problem. So I remember what it was like to Sunday night's like your Friday night,
Yeah.
and it's 11 o'clock at night, and you're around USC, and you're one ride away from your bonus,
Yeah.
and it's like
Yeah.
you're waiting for an hour,
Yes.
and you're just screaming
Yes.
in your own head because it's like I'm tired and I'm done,
Just give me
and
my last ride.
I've only made like $40 today.
Yeah.
So like it's just give me my goddamn $100.
just
Like I've earned it.
give me
It's my
my
money.
ride.
It's
Oh.
my money that they've held on to
Yeah.
this whole week. And now they're not giving it to me, and then they're going to stiff me on USC,
You know
which
what?
is a bunch of goddamn college students that go everywhere.
I think the algorithm is alive. I think the
Oh.
algorithm is Skynet.
See, I don't necessarily believe that, but I definitely believe that the algorithm has like a maliciousness
Yeah,
coded
yeah.
into it. It doesn't need to be self-aware to be mean,
Oh, for real. Tell me about it.
but it is me. It is a mean motherfucker.
It is, yo. Oh my gosh. Oh. All right, so we got 5 people in the chat. If y'all have questions, I want to hear some questions about some of the things that we got going on. AB5. Actually, Tyler and I, we were at the city council meeting earlier.
Yeah, it's true. We met with the staff for
Yeah.
Councilman Blumenfield.
Jeff Jacob Berger.
Yeah, it's quite a name.
Right?
Nice guy though, incredibly nice guy,
Yeah,
but that is
Jacob
quite
Berger.
a name.
Jeff Jacob Berger. He's got 2 first names as a.
That
sounds like a classic burger name.
It does.
It does kind of sound it.
Sounds like
But he
something you
was
find in
like it was actually a really good meeting. Like
Yeah.
we've received a lot of positive responses from City Council. They've been really receptive to it. I think that what's been so wonderful about this year for really advocating for rideshare drivers is that it's no longer such a struggle to try to get people to understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like when you tell people that you're struggling, when you're telling people that like I work and work and work and every year it feels like I'm having to put in more hours for less pay, they're a lot more receptive to that idea than they would have been maybe 16, 17 months ago.
That's a big fear that we come across with a lot of Uber drivers. You know what I mean? They think that, they keep saying, I drive 60 hours a week, I drive, X amount of hours. We're trying to tell you, like, listen, man, we're trying to, like, cut those hours in half and have you making more money and less hours.
Right, exactly, because like the biggest complaint is flexibility, right? Like that's what got so many people into this in the first place. Is maybe they had kids that they were trying to take care of, or maybe they had an elderly parent that they had to make sure they had there, or they just don't have a schedule that can fit around a normal 9-to-5 job, and they want to protect that, and totally, completely understandable. But what flexibility do you have if you're working 80 hours a week to make the same amount of money you should be making in 40?
Yeah,
That's not flexibility.
If you're driving like 10, 12 hours or more sometimes, that's like half of your day.
Yeah.
I mean,
actually, it's the whole day, because the only thing you really want to do after you've driven that long is go to sleep.
Yeah.
or sit on a couch, just do nothing.
Yeah, you just want to be a couch potato at that point. Like, and what kind of healthy lifestyle is that? You spend 12 hours sitting in a chair, and then 8 hours in bed if you're the kind of person that needs 8 hours.
Yeah.
So what does that leave you? That leaves you 4 hours for everything else. That how are you supposed to live your life on 4 hours?
I need 8 hours of sleep because I have to stay as handsome as I can. I need
I suppose that this takes work.
It does. No, it takes a lot of work. You don't understand. You know what I'm saying? I'm looking at myself in this thing over here. I am like almost a silhouette. You know what I mean?
That has been an issue with cameras, is that they were designed for whites. They were designed for this color palette. I'm not even joking. That's the reality behind that lens. 100 years of filmmaking was designed for pale skin.
Ben, more lights, okay? Especially coming this way, bro. Okay.
We need to get you a little camera, right there.
I feel like if I
angled
smile
straight at your face.
You know what I mean, my wife, my wife would make, she'd be like.
Turn the camera in night vision mode.
Oh God.
Night vision. Yeah, that would work. That would certainly work.
Yeah. So, but we're just kind of chatting away here, folks. Like we're all here to answer your questions. So if you folks have any concerns, any issues, you want to share with us, get some feedback, get the truth on what AB5 is and what it really does to you as an independent contractor or an employee, please let us know. We absolutely want to hear from you. That's why we're here tonight.
Yeah. We're just going to answer some of the basic questions. If you guys don't have questions, we know that we've been getting questions from people all around. And I guess the first one we can talk about is flexibility. You know what I mean? Because we know that's a big concern. Yeah, it's a huge concern with everybody who is against AB5. First they've been listening to a lot of Uber and Lyft propaganda. They've been sending out these flexibility things.
I mean, that's pretty much been their tactic to scare drivers from AB5,
yeah,
which AB5 does not restrict flexibility in any way.
No,
it doesn't say that you can't have a flexible schedule. It can't say that you can work whenever it works for you. It's just been Uber and Lyft's tactic to kind of, hey, don't lose your flexibility.
Yeah.
Knowing that a lot of drivers, that they're driving 12 hours. How much, how flexible is that? But there is no reason that you cannot be an employee and still be able to work whenever you want, just because the business model or the way this business runs, you need drivers out there on the street at all times. Yeah. So there's no reason that if you prefer to drive at night, why can't you just drive at night? If you prefer driving during the day, why not?
I'm sorry.
There's multiple reasons as to why somebody would need to get offline right now.
Yeah.
If I give somebody a bunch of reasons, I could go on with these reasons, whether you got a flat tire, whether there's something wrong with your car, whether you need to use the restroom.
You just got plans.
What if you just got sleepy?
Yeah, that's it.
It's not safe for me to drive right now. I need to get off the line right now. What are you going to force me to stay on the road while I'm sleeping?
Somebody else is always going to get on. Like, they're never going to have a problem with people needing to work at a certain time or not work at a certain time. There's always enough people on the road.
There's
especially here in Los Angeles. Like, this city never sleeps.
No. Well, that's New York City. Yeah.
So what I find really funny though is that every time they release another one of their policies out to the drivers, they always use flexibility as the buzzword.
Yeah, of course.
Like when they reduced it down to 60 cents a mile, wasn't that part of the language that they used?
Yeah.
To preserve people's flexibility, we're going to reduce the rates down to 60 cents a mile. Every single time they do something that's unpopular, they throw the buzzword flexibility out there like it means something. And at a certain point, if they keep seeing it over and over again for every single situation to cover them, well, to me, it becomes less credible because it's like the boy who cried wolf, right?
No, I'm saying it becomes believable from other people who aren't as informed as we are.
Right. I mean, that is fair. But I mean, like to people out there, like who see flexibility used every single time at this company, like has your flexibility increased? No, like it's gone down. Like so, they keep saying they're doing this to preserve flexibility, but then it never manifests.
And here's the crazy part about our flexibility actually going down, because when they lower the rate to what is lowered now, that means I have to stay on the road longer just to make up the money that I'm missing.
Which is dangerous.
Right, it is certainly. Like the crazy part is if you want me to have more flexibility, you give me more money, because then I won't have to drive all the time. If I can make my weekly, number, whatever that number is, 1,500, 1,600, whatever. If I can make that in 4 days rather than do that in 7 days,
Or even 5.
Or even 5.
Or even 5, you still get a couple of days off. It's like you have a weekend. Whatever days you decide to take as days
Which I
off.
find crazy because in this country we had like a sensibility that like, okay, you have 5 days that you work and you get 2 days to yourself.
Thank you to the Fair Labor Standards Act.
Yep, thank you. Like nearly almost 80 years ago.
Yeah.
Like we came to consensus in this country that like, you know, working people should have time to themselves and not just be working their ass off every single day to make some billionaire a whole bunch of money because that's where we are now.
That's right. And kids shouldn't work, right?
Yeah.
We do agree that child labor is bad.
I don't know. Like what does Jeff Bezos say about that?
Well, you know what? Listen, don't leave it up to him, man. I'm pretty sure that man will be as soon as your kid could walk, man. Here's a
we're gonna give him a tablet, and the tablet's gonna control a little robot, and the robot's gonna be inside the warehouse.
That's right. Big Bird says, "Pick this box." Oh my gosh! Man, that man is horrible.
No, it is. But that's sir.
I was just gonna say the reason you keep hearing flexibility from Uber and Lyft is because they're constantly running these in-app surveys, trying to ask you what do you like about Uber or what is the most valuable thing, and they're collecting this information from you. So obviously, you know, most people are not going to say I like the pay or I enjoy the job or the work or whatever. Even though some people may, you know, I mean, it can be enjoyable sometimes. You know, a lot of times it's not. Especially when you're, you know, feeling that you're underpaid and you're not well treated, and you deal with a lot of, you know, interesting characters sometimes. So they know that flexibility is something that almost every driver values, and that's how important it is, and that's why they're always going to hit that because they know to them it's a key word and it's a key point.
So we got a question there. I just read it right now.
Yay!
So the question is, Ben, what's the question?
So they're asking, does becoming an employee rule out the drivers who only work a few hours a week?
Okay, this is how I'm gonna answer that question. This is how I see it. I've been doing this for 6 years, and I feel like Lyft and Uber, they do want to have 8 drivers on every corner, because if they don't have 8 drivers on every corner, they lose money, because you never know when the demand is gonna be. Like, I mean, you can have a quinceañera here, you can have another party here, and all of a sudden, like, you know, the demand goes up. So what we're fighting, pretty much, we're fighting for them to stop hiring drivers, to stop recruiting drivers. So because I'm pretty sure that at this point, they already have enough drivers for the demand that they have. So, but it wouldn't be profitable for them, and it wouldn't be fair for the part-timers if AB5 becomes a law. You know, when it becomes a law, it wouldn't be fair for those part-timers, and it wouldn't be profitable for Uber to just get rid of all the part-timers, because they need the part-timers and they also need a full-timer. You know, it's a balance.
It is a balance. Right. And there are part-time employment. Like, there are places that offer part-time employee status.
And Uber and Lyft should be one of them.
Exactly. You know? Like, there should be no reason why Lyft and Uber gets a carve-out. That our part-time employees are very special and they need their own perks. No, the framework's already there. And it provides protections, it provides the things, it provides the standards that have existed in this country for 80 years.
I mean, a part-time employee is not going to get the same benefits as a full-time employee. No. You know, whether it's like healthcare or like certain benefits that would come with
employment. But they get the minimum
But depending
wage.
on how much of a part-time, like I know some companies will have, you know, you need to work more than 30 hours to get certain benefits or to get this kind of coverage and stuff like that. So, I mean, these are all details that, you know, honestly, we don't know how they're going to work out or how they're going to pan out, but there is absolutely no reason that they wouldn't be able to have full-time employees and part-time employees.
So here's something else to add onto that. We as drivers, when we become a union, because that's the main goal of Rideshare Drivers United, we're going to fight for the part-timers to have as many benefits as feasible for Uber and Lyft to be able to provide for the part-time employees. We cannot guarantee what kind of things that those are going to be, because we have to ourselves negotiate that Once we become a union, we have to negotiate that on behalf of everybody. But this is what you can guarantee. You can guarantee that we will fight, that you can have a living wage when you step out on that into your car and drive the 20, the 10, the 5 hours a week that you drive. Well, we just want you to get paid for the time that you're putting in the car.
And the expenses paid.
Yeah, we want
and your gas paid and the depreciation of your car paid, so that when you're putting this investment in, you know that you're getting a return on it. Because I think that that's one of the worst things about working for rideshare is that your income is so unstable.
Yeah.
That you're so income insecure that some weeks you might walk away with $1,200 and feel pretty good about it. The next week you could be pulling under less than $500.
Yeah. And so the deal is if you're like driving on the weekends and you're only driving like 10 hours a weekend or 10 hours a week or whatever, my goal is that you would have as close to $300 in your pocket as possible, because I would like to see us get a $30 minimum wage. No. And that's not a cap. Okay, that just means that
that's the floor.
That's the floor. Okay, you can certainly make more than that, but if you're in your car for 10 hours a weekend and $300 for a Saturday shift or Sunday shift, that to me is a great day. Yeah. You know, and we just want to make sure that if you have a full-time job and all you need is a couple extra bucks to get you throughout the week or whatever the case is, that you can get that without having to feel like you got to drive 12 hours, 13 hours a day and only make $120 or $240 but you've been driving forever. You know what I mean? We want to make sure that you are being taken care of whenever you're in that car.
And Lyft and Uber needs the volume during the weekends. Like, they need part-timers in order to help fill the gap. Like, Saturday and Sunday in the city of Los Angeles, nobody drives their cars. They all take Lyft and Uber. That's why those are such profitable days. Because people are going to the beach, or they're going out for drinks, or they're going out for dinner. They're doing all the things that they want to do with their free time. Yeah. They don't want to be driving in this city. That's why they hire people like us to do it for them. Absolutely. And they're going to need part-timers to help make up the gap. But so long as there's a floor for those folks too, so long as they are well compensated with a minimum wage floor and expenses covered in the way that any employee should be covered, then that's what we're going to advocate for our part-timers.
And you can believe that we're going to fight hard for that. We're going to fight hard for that because we understand what it's like to be drivers, whether you're a full-time driver or a part-time driver. We have part-time drivers in our organization who are on our organizing committee. I mean, a lot of us are full-timers, but we do have part-timers too. And they understand more than the full-timers do exactly what they need, what you guys need. But we're advocating for fair pay, beyond fair pay, for whenever you guys step in there. And we actually have another question.
I just want to clarify something before we get into this question, and it's kind of relevant to the question. So yes, $300 will be a good pay for a shift or for a day's work, but you also have to consider how many miles did you drive and how much time did you put in.
Right, no, of course.
Because, some people don't take that stuff into account. Kind of like this question that I see right now, how can minimum wage be good for us? I make $20 to $25 right now. So if you make $20...
Thank you, Nicole Moore. I don't know why that sounds familiar.
Thank you. If you're making $20 to $25 an hour, I mean, depending on whether you drive for Lyft or Uber right now, because the rates are a little bit different. If you're driving for Uber and you made about 25, that means you drove about over 30 miles, a little over 30 miles, and you made $25, and that's per hour, so you used an hour of your time. You drove about 30 miles. You're not making $25 for that hour. Absolutely. For that hour, you probably lost some money because you traded your time. You used your car for 30 miles. You're barely breaking even on your expenses, and you not make $25 an hour. Yeah. So minimum wage would be better because you're guaranteed to make at least minimum wage plus your expenses. And at that point, at least you're not losing money. Because there's going to be some times where, there's a lot of traffic. You end up with a ride that doesn't have any surge on it. I mean, there's no more surge anymore. Anyway. Yeah. I mean, you might get a bonus $1.50 or $3. Yeah. But go ahead, Tyler.
Well, I was going to say, you got to also remember that half of that. So if they're making 25. But in the reimbursement rate for on the IRS form for how much it costs to operate a vehicle is 60 cents. About 58 cents. So about 60 cents. So that's about 60% of what of every dollar that you make is going back into the car essentially,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
So like you're not really making 25, you're making about 40% of that gross,
Yes.
gross at the end of that?
I think it's
Or
gross.
No,
like-
it would be
No,
net.
not net. You're right.
Yeah,
You keep
net.
Right.
It's 40% net at the end of it because you're having to spend so much of it on the upkeep of the car, but you don't see that when you're driving.
No.
You only feel that every time you go to the pump or when you have to get the maintenance of the
Right,
car or when you have to
right.
replace the tires.
Right.
That's the only place that you feel it, but you don't feel it immediately. And that's kind of the magic trick with
Yeah.
Lyft and Uber is that they hide all the expenses from you and then you learn later down the road
But you're getting taken.
that you're getting taken, yeah.
And see, and one of the key things is expenses. We always have to account for expenses. That's why we're going for such a high, minimum amount that you can make. Because when people hear, and I've had to explain this to customers, they said, "You want $30 an hour?" I'm like, "Yeah, but you also have to consider I have all these expenses that Uber and Lyft aren't paying just for me to keep this car on the road.
Right.
So yeah, I got to pay for my brakes. I have to pay. I have a cracked windshield wiper. What windshield right now? I can't even pay it. It's $400. I have my insurance company won't cover it because they said that if it's over $500, then you pay the $500 and then we'll cover the rest. So if it's 501, I'll pay the $500. They'll put $1 towards that.
Right.
Give me a break.
Yes.
So the car actually from Safe Flight and all that, it's going to cost about $380, $390, something like that. So it's going to cost me $400. So I can't even, and that's why we need that minimum wage plus the expenses.
Yes.
So I can have money put aside, from driving, and I can have money put aside to take care of it. I mean,
No, exactly. And we're all subsidizing these companies.
Yeah,
We're the ones expected to cover their fleet costs. Think about a traditional taxi company.
Yeah.
The reason that a taxi company can only have so many cars is because they have to maintain it, right?
Yeah.
They have to they have to replace the cars when they reach a certain mileage. They have to have maintenance on those cars, be able to gas those cars up. So that puts a hard cap on how much they're able to. Lyft and Uber, the secret to them is that they don't have they don't own any cars, so they don't have to pay any fleet costs. So they can be as big as they want to be.
It's really ingenious though to have a business this way that you don't have to own any of what makes you the money. I didn't think about it.
You don't have to pay any of the expenses.
What?
I mean,
Right, exactly.
Gosh.
This is something I want to tell drivers out there who are against AB5. This is the part that makes them be against AB5 because we're talking about minimum wage plus expenses. But a lot of drivers, what they're afraid is like, okay, you're gonna pay me $25, let's say $30 an hour, because that's minimum wage plus expenses. Let's say $30 an hour. Okay, for example, let's say that you take a ride from LAX to San Diego and it's $300. How you calculate that your earnings? That's the concern that every driver have out there. They're like, why should I be making just minimum wage plus expenses and then making $300? That benefits the company, but not me. But that's something that we can negotiate with the company. It could be on the contract saying, okay, if you're making $30 an hour, but if you do a $300 ride, Uber and Lyft will be able to just take 10% out of that. The rest goes to the driver.
And I want people to understand, because I think this is the biggest place where we begin to lose a lot of drivers. They think when they hear $30 an hour, they're hearing that it's a maximum.
That's the ceiling,
more than $30. And we have to make this clear. We are not capping. We would not cap ourselves at $30. We're saying that you cannot make any less than $30 an hour,
Exactly.
which means that you can make $35 for that hour. You can make $40 for that hour. You can make
100,
60. You can make 100 for that hour.
Exactly.
You can make however much it is for that hour.
Definitely.
Okay, we're just saying you cannot make less than $30 because that is the bare minimum that it's going to cost you to make a profit and keep the upkeep on the car.
And that's the real cost. That's the real cost of minimal operation of a driver and the vehicle.
Yeah.
That's the way that you should see it. That is the basic floor.
Yes.
And we're not talking about a ceiling here. We are talking about a floor because that has been the issue so far is that there has been no floor in this industry.
Yeah.
And people are allowed to fall as far down as possible to the point of homelessness.
Hey, you know what? Ben, you keep talking. This is the thing I'm gonna.
Yeah, but yeah, sorry.
No, I was gonna say a lot of drivers that have been driving for a while or are experienced drivers, they know that if you're out there driving on the streets, you're gonna have probably about 3 or 4 or 5 hours or more where you're not making that much money throughout these hours until you get a break and you get something good that's long, maybe with a surge or some kind of bonus or something like that, and you actually make your money and make up for all that time in like 2 to 3 hours.
Yeah.
And if you don't get that break, if you don't get something good at the end of the shift or in the middle or somewhere in between that time that you're working, it's going to be really bad.
It's like a wasted day.
It's a waste of day, gas, money, time, everything. And people are waiting for that long ride or waiting for that good ride to make up and balance all the bad hours that just passed.
And you know something? Every single ride that we get from these companies needs to be profitable. Like like when we get to the negotiating table, that's something that has to be mandated. Every single ride must be profitable.
Yes.
So I remember I don't remember this because I wasn't driving, but I had to do the research. I found out that there was a $5 base fee and a $3.25 mile charge thereafter. That means for somebody to go down the road, a mile cost them about $8.
Yeah.
That's appropriate.
Which is appropriate.
That is appropriate. If you're going to be lazy and not walk, a mile is walkable. If you're going to be a little lazy, then $8 is not an unreasonable amount to ask for.
Isn't.
What's not appropriate and what's not reasonable is you getting $2 and some change.
That's unreasonable.
That's what's messed up.
Absolutely. And those are the kind of conditions that lead to, just to go back for a second, to the homelessness problem that we're facing. So I went and I was looking at this article that from Rideshare Drivers LA. I don't think it's not our organization, but it's another organization. And they're pretty good too. But they were talking about an article out of the San Francisco Chronicle written by Carolyn. I want to say said, because that's what it says.
It says said.
It says said, right? That's funny. But anyway, we're talking about a guy named Gary Branson. And in this article, he drives 60 hours a week. And it says, Branson's Prius is immaculate inside and out. It's both his home and his workplace. He's an Uber driver putting in some 60 hours a week behind the wheel to ferry passengers around San Francisco.
Yeah.
Late at night, he drives to a location where it's legal to park, reclines the navigator's seat, wraps his burly 6'2" frame in a red plate plaid blanket, and tries to block out the traffic noise just to get some shut-eye. Now, it says that he's figured out by practical ways to cope by joining a gym for showers, stowing food neatly in duffel bags, storing clothing in his trunks, keeps most of his possessions in a storage unit, and he also is saying his situation underscores what critics call ride-hailing's poverty, wages, and precarious nature. Now, although he earns about $1,200 a week, he averages about $20 an hour. After Uber's cut work expenses such as gas, oil changes, new tires, and other maintenance, traffic tickets, car payments, car insurance, cell phone bill, his self-employment taxes, they all are taking away a humongous chunk. Yeah. And he says that it's because of, as Uber has cut rates and bonuses in recent years, Branson's hope of digging himself out of this hole have dwindled. Now, he's pinning a lot of his hopes on California's AB 5 law, which could make drivers into employees. He says, Governor Gavin Newsom signed it on Wednesday after it passed the Senate and Assembly. Uber and Lyft, however, plan to fight the reclassification. And he says that he really wants to see a union being made.
Yeah.
That's where all of this is really getting down to. You know what I mean? He wants to see a union being made. And Gary Branson is the kind of people that we're going to fight for. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Well, he's one of us.
Yeah, he's one of us.
He's one of us. And he's the end result. This is where all of us are heading if things continue the way that it's going and the longer that we stay in this industry. This is where Lyft and Uber are totally fine with us going. This is what it means to not have a floor. Yeah. Is to work 60 hours a week and be and be shelter insecure like this.
It's terrible.
And it's terrible. And in the same, that story comes in the same year where an Uber executive bought a $75 million house in Beverly Hills.
Yeah.
So like I think that I speak for everyone when I say that there's something really unequal here.
Really
so there's something very unfair with this system.
To be working 60 hours a week and only making $1,200, that man is missing 20 hours of overtime.
Yeah.
You know, that paycheck should be closer to $2,400.
To be working 60 hours a week and be homeless is a shame.
Come on, in the richest country in the world, right?
Exactly.
The richest society in the history of humanity. It is just a disgusting
It's sad.
thing.
It's sad. And it's absolutely disgusting for sure.
Yeah. And that's why we need a union, because that's Lyft and Uber are not going to change their tune just because of bad news press, and they're not going to they're even saying that they're not going to obey the law come January 1st. It is going to require drivers having a single organization and using a single voice to counterbalance these folks.
Yeah.
They can't just constantly change the terms of service. They have to negotiate with us. That's the only way that it's going to get better for everybody.
Yep.
Because otherwise it'll be okay. We win something, and then 5 months later they decide, well, it's not working for us. So now those gains are gone, and now there's no union to really force them to negotiate.
Isn't that what New York is going through right now?
A little bit.
Uber they did a 27-hour minimum, but then I think they were trying to roll some things back, weren't they?
They're trying to kind of wiggle around the law. Is my understanding of it, because there's no. Again, we can pass ordinances, and those are really important. But without a union, it is very easy for these companies to try to wiggle around things because there's no legally binding contract for them to be forced to obey.
I think that recent regulation came from the city.
Right. It did.
To reduce congestion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but I mean they've been having that minimum hourly guarantee, $27.86 since last August.
Yeah.
So it's been over a year.
So from Facebook, we actually got a comment. Zanz Alejandro is saying Uber is killing drivers in Los Angeles.
That's right.
We know that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
We're all in LA, so we know. It's just.
This is a dangerous job.
Yeah.
I think that the public doesn't know that enough, that this is a very dangerous job, especially in such a traffic choked city like this. The more hours you're in that car is more opportunities for you to get in an accident, or more opportunities for there to be just that wrong person to get in the back of your car who at the end of the night is going to do something unspeakable.
I think I saw this maybe about 3 months ago or so ago. There was an Uber driver, I think, who got stabbed in the neck. If I'm not mistaken, I think it was in Arizona.
Is that the guy that had his throat slit?
Yes, I think that was.
Yeah, that's a little old. I've seen that before, and he had staples across his throat.
Oh, did he live?
Yeah,
he made it.
Yeah, but
he's a big guy.
There was also the pregnant woman this year for Lyft.
Yes.
And I don't think
that was in Arizona.
And I don't think she made it. I think that she passed away.
They killed the guy. Killed her and her unborn baby.
And my understanding is that Lyft's response to that really was okay, we booted the person off the platform and we send a condolence to the survivors, but no financial incentive. There was nothing financial to support.
I mean, that's the usual response. Oh, we're so sorry to hear that. We're gonna assist or provide whatever information we have for the investigation. Well,
right, and that's the extent of their commitment. It's the basic minimum.
That's not even a choice. That's not even a choice. This is a murder case. You will cooperate.
Exactly. It's you don't get to take credit for doing the minimum.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm so sick of the thoughts and prayers. I want to see action behind people's words, people's problems. I want to see action. Put something towards the family. Maybe we should have a victims fund or something. I don't know. But
they just need to take responsibility for their goddamn employees, because that's what we are now.
Well, when we do have AB5 implemented, we are going to have workers' compensation. So
exactly.
Something happens.
We will have that. You're right.
Yeah, and that's going to take us a long way into making that a little better. Because again, this is a risky job.
Right.
And in the fact that they've been paying under minimum wage for such a risky job is just disgraceful.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we have Jason saying Uber said drivers are not necessary in their platform. We are dealing with these people that have the nerve to lie easily and in the faces of judges.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and if I recall that specific case, like even the judge was looking at them like, what the hell are you talking about?
Yeah.
Uber's not a
Professional
transportation
liars.
company? What the
Yeah, and Domino's Pizza doesn't make pizza, okay?
no,
So-
it's just a starch delivery system.
Don't start delivering.
So we got another question is, January 1st, when AB5 takes effect, Uber plans to just keep on doing what it's always been doing. How long do you think it'll take for AB5 to be recognized?
Okay, hold up. So, Tyler and I, we went to City Hall earlier today.
Yeah.
I already spoke with Jacob Berger.
From,
I love his name, by the way.
Staffer for Councilman Blumenfield.
Bob Blumenfield, which is also a pretty good name. People call him BB. But anyway, we spoke about this situation earlier today. And so in AB5, there is an enforcement law that says that the city attorney can sue Uber and Lyft.
Yeah,
Okay.
and so what AB5 has is an enforcement mechanism that says that, okay, if you're a city over the threshold of 750,000 people, that gives you the right to enforce the law. So it doesn't require the state to get involved with enforcement. Cities can do enforcement on their own for it. And what we're currently trying to do with City Council is that we're trying to make sure that come January 1st, if Lyft and Uber are insistent that we are still not employees, that the city attorney in the city of Los Angeles will file a lawsuit with the companies for
And
enforcement.
it's not just LA that we're working on. We're also working on LA doing this. We're also working on
San
San
Diego,
Francisco
yeah.
doing this. Working on San Diego doing this. We're going to try to have as many big cities in California who are willing to fight and pose lawsuits on these companies.
And we already know that San Francisco is signaling. The city
Yeah,
attorney in
San
San
Francisco
Francisco
will
is
do it.
already saying
Yeah.
that they are like day one will probably be filing a lawsuit
And
on
if
them
San
if
Fran-
they
Waiting.
insist on their
Yeah,
lawlessness.
He's waiting.
Yeah.
He was waiting,
He's
exactly.
waiting.
And if San Fran does it, LA will do it. And if you've got two of the biggest cities in California doing it, you can bet that San Diego is going to follow
Yeah.
not too long after that. So we're gonna punch these guys in the mouth if they're gonna have the nerve, like Tony West was his name.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
he
so,
said,
so.
well, it's not gonna change our model.
And then he went back on it, and then they said
Okay.
some other funny stuff, and I don't.
It made me
I
laugh.
think they just don't know what to say. Yeah.
All right.
It was funny stuff.
So we have another question from Brad, and the question is, if Uber does exist, I'm going to probably try to decipher what he's saying, is if Uber does exist, and they go back to the pay that they were paying 6 months ago before they got greedy, why can't we talk with anybody from corporate office? And I've been asking for 17 months, and that they are killing us slowly but surely.
Well, the pay 6 months ago still was not
It's
great.
what-
Yeah, exactly.
It's not gonna cut it. I'm not sure what talking to somebody from corporate at this point would be. We cannot trust these companies, and that's something that anybody that's been driving for a while knows.
Yeah. Also, this I think has turned into a radio cast at this point. or do we have,
Yeah,
do we have video
I don't see
again?
myself anymore.
Can't see that pretty face. That's how we
Can they
know we're on
still-
radio now.
okay.
Hey!
Okay.
Oh!
Hey, listen, you couldn't see me either, but
Oh, no,
I mean, in fairness, you can't see me anyway.
We can see your shadow.
I look like a shadow.
All right. So, but here's the thing. So corporate doesn't want to talk to us. From corporate's perspective, all they want to do is try to ride out the storm and hope that they can win lawsuits and then force things the way that they were.
What I was getting at, Tyler, was
Oh, sorry.
because we don't have any trust in these companies,
No.
it cannot be like some, I'm gonna give you my word, type thing
Yeah.
deal. This has to be a negotiated deal, something on writing. We have to have a position of a union, so they cannot just go back on it whenever they feel like it.
Yeah.
So they won't be like, okay, we'll give you back your 25% or whatever it is that you want.
Which wasn't enough.
And 2-3
Which wasn't
months later, things go back to where they are now or
Right.
even worse.
Yeah, absolutely, and you're absolutely right about that. Like I remember when they sent those emails out, like on the eve of AB5 passing, sending out this email and saying, "Here's our new standards, and like if AB5 fails, we promise to be good." And I just think in the back of my mind is like, if AB5 fails, all of this disappears in 2 months.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like it's a shadow. Like it's really because they're desperate and they don't want to deal with the consequences of AB5, so they're going to hold this carrot out in front of people and say, no, we promise to be good now, we promise to be good, but they've got no credibility.
So let me explain something real quick to everybody who's watching. This is the reason why we've had to go through legislation.
Yeah.
This is the reason why we had to do it, because when they first started, it was $5 per ride base fee, and it was a $3 mile charge thereafter. Okay.
Yeah.
Now we understand that they wanted to jiggle with the prices to try to find the sweet spot. That's okay. If they had lowered it to $2 and kept it there, we would not be trying to unite. We would not have an issue because everybody would still be making money. Okay. The reason why they are able to get away with doing whatever they want to is because they have no regulation, okay? And this is the major problem with capitalism in the first place. When you have no regulation, these companies will do whatever it is they want to. That's why back in the early 1900s, when they had children working in coal mines, but some of you people don't even know this, that the children had to buy their own candle lights to work in pitch blackness.
Bought from the company store.
Bought from the company store. So if there, yes, exactly. Wow, exactly. So if there is no regulation, and thanks to 1938 when Frederick Delano Roosevelt put the Fair Labor Standards Wage Act or Fair Labor Standards Act, that's when we got the 40-hour work week, because people were working 16-hour days.
Yep.
That's when we got the minimum wage. That's when we got no child labor. That's when we got a whole bunch of protections that we now enjoy. Okay.
Well, we don't.
Well,
But that's what
we don't. We don't enjoy it, right? But everybody else does enjoy it. So this is why we have to fight, because when we do not unite and when we do not go through regulation, we cannot trust billionaire companies, okay, to be moral. They're not moral. Their only goal is to maximize their profits, and the only way that you can do that is by effectively eliminating your labor costs.
Yeah.
That's one of the only ways that you can do it.
Yeah, no, and it's true. And like to be frank, there are three constituencies to these companies, right? They're investors. There's the drivers, and there's the customers. Investors they won't cross because that just goes against American capitalism.
Right.
You must always maximize shareholder
And they
value.
have a fiduciary responsibility.
Fiduciary responsibility, which is BS, but we won't get it. That's a
BS.
whole other TED talk.
Absolutely.
There's your customers,
Yeah.
and they won't do it to their customers because Lyft and Uber are in such a deadlock competition with each other that if one raises the price on their customers to cover up the gap, the other one just needs to sit at their prices at 6 months for the competition to evaporate, and then they have total market control of a section. So they won't do that. So they only have one lever left, and that's their drivers.
Yes.
And they're willing to pull on that lever to reduce costs on drivers as much as they can because there's no one to tell them no.
Right.
They like, at least with customers, like there's a responsibility, like there's a sense of competition that compels them, and with investors there's a fiduciary responsibility that compels them. But there's nothing for drivers to compel them to have to, like, well, maybe we should take consideration of these people when we make decisions. Like, no, there's nothing like that. We need to maximize profits. Drivers are the easiest constituency to pull and drain value from, so that's what they're going to do. And then it's 80 cents a mile, then it's 60 cents a mile.
Right.
Now it's 40 cents a mile.
It's 30 cents a mile.
It's 30 cents a mile.
I think.
Exactly.
Right?
It's the same lever. They just keep pulling the same lever to try to fix their financial problems.
And this is why being united, and we're gonna get to these questions. I know we've got some more questions, but this is why being united is so important.
It's the only solution.
It is.
It's the only solution to this problem.
Absolutely.
It's to unite and have a union, and that's it.
We make a
Or
contract.
else it's just gonna be you and Uber, and they're gonna take full advantage
they're
of
gonna
everybody
kill
on their
you.
own.
It's the old adage: united we stand, divided we fall.
Exactly.
It's like it's just as simple as that, folks. It's just an old adage.
Real quick, blame Uber and Lyft. for Rideshare Drivers United. Okay,
Yeah.
Blame Uber and Lyft for the union. Blame Uber and Lyft for the for AB5.
Yeah.
Blame Uber and Lyft because if they did not lower their rates
Yeah.
to such a disgraceful, you know what I mean? And what's the other word I'm looking for with a D? That it's degrading
Yeah.
to such a degrading degree where people can work 60 hours and be homeless.
Yeah.
If they didn't do it, we wouldn't even be here.
Yeah, that's very true. Thanks, Lyft. Thanks, Uber.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so we got somebody on YouTube. I want to get to his question because he's got two of them. So we're only going to try to pick one of them. So we can do. Can you explain how we could still deduct for mileage because of the wage, or we can answer how does the minimum wage of 85 cover the cost of mileage and depreciation?
Second one.
Second one? Okay. So we're going to answer how does the minimum wage or 85 cover the cost of mileage and depreciation? Who wants to take that?
So it's basically just expenses, right?
Yeah.
Like it's so if you work for any other company and you use your personal property for the sake of the company is supposed to reimburse you for the expense for what you've used.
Mm-hmm.
And from when I used to work a corporate job, I used to have expenses in that you would typically file like, okay, this is what I did. This is what I did, how many miles I drove for the sake of the company, and then the company would cut me a check for compensation for that. On top of the pay I was already making that day. So it would be, I would have my base salary, I would have the base amount of money that I would make for that day, and then the company would then compensate me for my own personal resources that I used in the service of the company. And that's generally how that would work.
Yeah.
And what we would suggest that Lyft and Uber do is that they build it into their algorithm.
Yeah,
That we build it into their system where they know how far you're traveling.
Exactly.
They know how
long
far
the
that you're
trip is.
going. They know how long that is.
They got brilliant engineers, okay?
Right.
People who are smart with computers, good with math,
Right.
work it out.
Right, exactly. Like that's generally how it would be. You would have your base pay, and then because they know how much of your miles you're using in the service of their company, all they have to do is add up all of the rides that you did that day, and then cut you a check for whatever. Like the going rate is 58 cents a mile, so it would be your base pay plus the 58 cents a mile to cover your gasoline, depreciation, all of that stuff. And then, and that's a much better situation than now.
If that's all it costs to operate the ride, then they can even pass that 58 cents on to the customer because that's not going to be something that's going to break the bank. Now, I mean, if it was like $5, then maybe they would want to find a different way to push it, or so they can pay for us. But if it's only 58 cents, you can add it to the customer out of that.
Right, and they'll figure it out. This is the cost of doing business.
It's the
cost of doing business.
We learned about that Econ 101.
We learned in Econ, exactly. That's the problem with the Uber and Lyft business
Yeah.
models. They found a way to cut out the cost of business and force it onto their employees.
And
that's why AB5 was so important, is because it said that business model is exploitive.
Yes.
And it hurts people.
Absolutely.
And that you should and that it shouldn't be up to your employee to cover your costs of doing business.
Yeah.
It's your responsibility as the enterprise to cover your own goddamn expenses.
That's right. Just cover the expenses. And we're not even asking them to make our car payments. You know what I mean? Just help me keep my car on the road so that I can make a good living, so I can pay my rent. Maybe I can save up and go on vacation. Oh, speaking of vacation, that's something else that we're gonna fight for you guys as well. We're gonna fight for some time off, paid time off that you can get, because other employees enjoy that in other industries, and you should as well. We are working Americans.
Yeah. And this was the promise of America, like back in the 20th century, was that if you did a 40-hour-a-week job, that was enough to entitle you to a middle-class existence, right? And that meant having vacation days.
Yeah.
That meant having health insurance. That meant having a level of economic security.
Absolutely.
6 days.
6
What
days.
if
Something
it is?
as basic as
Different
6
than
days.
vacation
Like if your
days.
kid's sick, like what happens right now if your kid gets sick is like,
Right.
well, I guess I'm not making any money today. I got to pay the doctor. I'm going to pay the doctor with the money I didn't make today.
Yeah. And honestly,
Disability insurance and workman's comp, things that you don't have, because if you get, like, I have to have a surgery next month,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna be out of work. I can't drive. I can't do too
man.
much for 2 weeks.
Sorry, bro.
What's gonna cover me? Not
Nothing.
Uber.
Your
not
saving,
Lyft.
your
Yeah.
pitiful
Whatever
savings
savings
off
you
of
can
what
make.
they've
Exactly.
been,
Exactly.
you've been able to make.
So
with that
so
company.
that is something that drivers need, because that driving position is not a healthy position, and I know so many drivers that had sciatic nerve problems and like back problems and all kinds of issues, and they will bite the bullet and you know, suck it up and try to drive, but there's going to be some days where the pain is so bad and they're just so out of commission they can't. I mean, you sit in the driver's seat for like 2-3 hours and you can't even stand up anymore. You can't.
And that's dangerous, man. Like, if you're having to constantly think about your back pain while you're driving, you are paying less attention to the road. Yeah. And that's a danger not just to yourself, but to everybody.
Yeah. And look, we get it. We've chosen to do this job. So the back pain that comes with it, like, we understand that. That's going to be our price to pay. However, we still deserve to be able to save up our money and have Medicare for all, so that we don't have to worry about, you know, these kinds of issues. You know what I mean?
Bernie.
Listen. I'm not to turn this into like a political thing or anything like that, but yeah, look, we're gonna try and negotiate a good healthcare service. You know what I mean, for us when we have the chance to sit down. But hopefully, we're not gonna need it.
Well, okay? but that's the thing. We will Rideshare Drivers United is committed to making sure that our drivers have health care, whatever that means. Yeah. Whatever that means, making sure that they have good, affordable health care that they have access to. Because that should be, again, you folks are putting in your time. You're putting in your hours. Yeah. You're putting your body and your car on the line every single day. That is, we determined in this country 80 years ago that was adequate. That's what it would take to have a decent lifestyle.
And you know something else? This is the new factory. I've made this point several months ago, but driving the gig economy, this is the new factory. Whether you're driving for Uber and Lyft, whether you're doing DoorDash, whether you're doing Grubhub or any of these other, gig economy work, this is the factory. Because 100 years ago, we were all working in coal mines, we were all working in factories, a new thing that was coming up. But once we introduced the Fair Labor Standards Act, you were able to provide, a one household income. Actually, only one person had to work, instead of today where you have to have two income. And listen, in an ideal world, we would go back to that one.
Right, but just at least making sure that if you're a single individual, that you can support yourself off of it. That's the bare minimum.
Shouldn't be too much to ask, man.
And it's the bare minimum. And that's our issue. With a lot of this is that we're just trying to be able to make sure that we can take care of ourselves. It's if we're putting in the work, if we're putting in the resources, and obviously you have to have resources to be able to do this job. You have to have the money to be able to buy the car or at least rent the damn thing at such an exorbitant price. Oh, boy. That's a whole other kettle of fish.
Possibly. So maybe, do you think that one of the reasons to keep the pay so low is so that drivers can't buy their own car, so that they have to rent if they want a job so desperately that they have to rent?
See, I'm not entirely convinced that there isn't an executive that certainly thinks that's a good outcome of that policy.
Yeah, I mean, when I heard about that, I was like, you're paying almost $1,000 a month plus your insurance to drive for Uber and Lyft. That is ludicrous.
Look, honestly, if you think about it, as far as car rental prices, if you're renting a car for a week for $200, it's not a bad deal for a car rental. It becomes a bad deal when this is a monthly thing and this is an ongoing thing, and this is your means of making money.
Right.
Now, as far as doing this for Uber and Lyft, actually, I think it makes it easier for somebody to calculate their expenses because you already know how much the car is costing you. You don't have to worry about depreciation or maintenance or any of that stuff. The car is costing you a lot, definitely, because it's going to be anywhere from $800 and up a month. Yeah. And if you're buying your own car and making payments, it's going to be much less than that, probably $200-$300 plus your insurance. But as far as car rentals go, it's not a bad deal for a car rental. I mean, I used to rent cars before, and if you're renting a car for a week, it's going to be more than that. But for the sake of using it to make money, does it really make sense?
I don't think so.
But then
you're pretty much putting yourself in a trap where you're definitely gonna have to drive over 50 hours a week.
Yeah. What's suspicious about it is that they streamline it, right? You go to the Uber green light now, and they've got a whole booth.
Yeah, they got fare.
For fare right there. So
and I don't think fare is fair.
Yeah,
They're affiliated.
They're affiliated.
Yeah, they are
My
affiliated.
belief was
That's
that
what they got
Fare was a spin-off off of like Uber's. Like Uber originally owned its own rental program, and
Yeah.
then they spinned it off to create Fare, and now
Exactly.
Fare's got a booth inside the Uber Greenlight in Manhattan Beach. So
That's
it's
disgusting.
you don't even have to have a card to walk into Uber, and they'll be like, nope. And they got like T-Mobile or something like
But
that there now.
these prices, if you think about it, what are these prices based on? It's based on the depreciation and the maintenance costs and everything that's involved into running this car. They know what you're driving this car for. They know how much mileage you're going to put on it.
Yeah.
And that's how much it's going to cost.
Yeah, that's a trap waiting to happen.
Yeah.
Okay, so apparently we have a couple other questions. Let me see. What are our strategies, and are we pushing for employees or another version of independent contractors? Well, we don't
pushing
talk
employment.
we don't talk strategy out in the open because we have a committee for that where we talk strategy, and it's top secret.
No, but we can tell that there are two things that we're really pushing for, and one of them is obviously ending misclassification
we're
and getting
definitely
employment status, because employment status means that we can form a union.
Exactly.
And that's the highest goal, because that's the way that we get the security that we deserve is through a union. There's
That's
no
the
other
ultimate goal.
road
100%.
on that. That's the one route.
That is
the
the ultimate
second is that we are working to get local ordinances and regulation in the city of Los Angeles.
That's all we'll tell you. But
And those are the two key components to our strategy of what we're trying to build here. And regulation is important too, because one, like, we're supposed to be good neighbors in the city. We service Los Angeles.
Yeah, we
we're
do.
citizens of this city, and we want to make sure that we have a voice in terms of what rules get put up, and that those rules are supporting drivers and promoting basic labor standards and holding companies accountable if they want to operate in the second largest city in the United
right.
States.
One thing I want people to kind of keep in mind. I'm coining this term. Okay, it's called independent employee. All right, I want you guys to try to visualize yourself being an independent employee, which basically means that we're gonna fight for you to maintain your freedom of schedule, your flexibility, okay? Because you're an independent person, all right? You don't have a boss ahead of you. You don't have a supervisor. You don't have to ask for this or that. When it comes to your sick time off, the way that I envision it in my head is that when you want to take a sick day off and you've earned, let's say, 5 days, that there should be a button in your account that you just say, boom, I'm gonna just take these 5 days off.
Yeah, a mechanism.
And mechanism in the app that you use it. You don't have to call say, hey, I want to take 5 days off. No, you don't have to do any of that. We don't want any third-party management. We can manage ourselves. Just give us the option. And listen, the reason why we believe that this is possible is because in 2007, there was a guy by the name of Steve Jobs who invented this magical device.
Yep.
Okay? And people started making, different ways to work. And work has evolved to honestly a degree that nobody saw coming.
Yeah.
Nobody saw coming. I know I didn't. Okay? And I got a pretty vivid imagination. I wrote a book. Seraph the Guardian Angel, go check it out. Okay? Free plug. I'm just saying, okay? We're not out here trying to take away your flexibility. We want you to be an employee so that you can have the kind of protections that you deserve, but we want you to be able to be an employee who works independently of having a supervisor, independently of having to call somebody if you want to take days off, independent of saying, hey, blah, 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 I'm sick, can't go to work. You don't have to do any of that.
We want you to have real flexibility, not the fake flexibility that they sell you. We want you to have the ability to be able to choose your schedule, have it something that makes sense, and have you be economically independent.
Yeah,
because that's the thing. Like we all are wage workers. Like we all work for a wage.
Yeah,
and we can have a sense of independence by having income security.
That's right.
To be able to feel like, okay, like I'm taken care of. I know that I can pay my rent this month. I know that I can do what I need to.
Gary Branson does not have, if you're joining us late, Gary Branson was a man that we talked about earlier who was driving 60 hours a week, and he's only making $1,200 a week. He doesn't have any flexibility.
He has no flexibility.
Okay?
His only choice at this point is either to work for Uber or to go on public assistance.
Yes,
those are the two choices.
And he may already be on public assistance.
He might very well be on public assistance.
But he does not have flexibility driving 60 hours a week. Because what are you going to do for I don't know how many hours are in a week, but what are you going to do That's 12, 14 hours a day? 12
Well,
hours a
so
day?
what's 7 times 24?
It's
I
24
don't know. I'm not good at math. Don't ask me that.
Are you asking how many hours in a week or how many hours in a
Well,
day?
he drives 60 hours a week, but I'm assuming
60 hours a week it's usually about 12 hours for 6 days.
Yeah. Okay. So let's just break it down to 10 hours for 6 days. Let's just do that, right? 10 hours for 6 days.
Actually, 12 hours for 5 days.
Okay, or 12 hours for 5 days. He's still exhausted.
Yeah.
Of course.
Of course.
He's still exhausted.
Bro, I tell my
It's not for
passengers
you.
this, to try to kind of help them relate to how tired a driver would be after working a shift. I'd be like, do you remember taking a road trip at any point where this road trip lasted maybe about 6 or 7 hours? I'm like, yeah. Well, okay, do you remember how tired you were after that road trip? Yeah, I was exhausted. Well, imagine doing that road trip like every day.
Yeah, exactly.
Every day
Yeah.
you're on that road trip where you're driving for 6, 7, 8 hours or more for some
Yeah.
people.
It's a
You
good.
know,
That's a great way to
Oh,
explain.
Yeah.
what's up, Dave?
So we got a really good question, and we may or may not be able to answer this.
Ooh.
We got a question from Facebook. His name is John Hera.
What's up, John?
And he wants to know, how is this going to affect Uber Black drivers?
Oh, I don't know just yet. However, everybody is going to be classified as employees. Okay, so that it'll affect you that way. I would assume, okay, because I know that Uber Black makes more money than Uber X does. Whatever our floor is, Uber Black's floor is going to be higher. So
Well, and my understanding with Uber Black is that it requires a special kind of license to it. They actually are properly-
it requires a TCP. So
Yeah,
what I would
that's
say about this is, we're not exactly sure how that's going to work out. However, I think the factors that are going to make a difference is probably whether you own that car or you're renting that car from a fleet manager or a fleet owner, whether you have your own TCP license or using somebody else's TCP license. Those are probably going to be the factors to determine how it's going to work out for Uber Black drivers.
Well, I'll say this much: like Uber, like if they want to keep Uber Black or these sort of like executive or kind of more high scale services, if the base pay increases for the lowest person on the platform,
Is Uber
that's
X,
going
right.
to cause the people at the top of the scale to increase their rates,
Yeah.
right? Because they still want to incentivize those kind of professional drivers. And the way that you do that is having a competitive rate for that. So if the bottom increases, that should increase it
Yeah.
for everyone else above
I mean,
them.
Uber Black has a pretty decent rate right now. It's lower than what it used to be. It used to be higher, but it's still a pretty decent rate. And I know most Uber Black drivers would not complain too much about it right now.
Right.
But I think his main concern was whether they're going to be classified as employees or not. And that's kind of like a gray area right now, and it depends on different factors. And we don't want to give any
Bad advice. We don't want to give in bad advice because that is a kind of a sticky legal issue. The only other thing I would throw out there is that AB5 does say that it does exempt people who make over double the minimum wage.
Okay.
If they're independent, if they exist within kind of a traditional independent contractor status and they're making double minimum wage, then they would be exempt from AB5. So if they're making above, if Uber Black is going to make over double minimum wage, then it shouldn't affect them. But if they make lower than that, there's a possibility that AB5 will affect
I mean, it's common sense. We're fighting to make more. I mean, we're not fighting for Uber and Lyft to lower their pay for the black cars.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Yeah,
common
exactly.
sense. I mean,
Exactly.
that's never going to happen. So I don't want people to be worried that, oh, am I going to become an employee and am I going to make less money?
Yeah.
So that's not going to happen because we're fighting for us to make more, not less. If you're going to make less, I mean, what we're fighting for?
So I want to say something about minimum wage in general, and then I want to get to this question because it seems to be a really good one. But here's the secret about minimum wage. Minimum wage is super important, okay? Because when the lowest person in any industry is making a living wage, that means that people above them get to make more.
Yeah.
If there is no minimum wage, okay, now you have to remember what we said earlier. Capitalism's main goal is to maximize their profits, and one of the ways that they do it is they cut down their labor costs. So if you have somebody who's working $7 an hour, what if there was no minimum wage, okay? And people who worked a regular service job, let's say that they were making $2 an hour. What do you think the manager of that shop would be making? You think they would be making $80,000 with a degree? Of course not. If they're making $2 an hour, the person who is at the lowest rung of that platform, then the person who's in management is only going to be making like 30.
Yeah.
Okay? This is why we need to have a minimum wage, and this is for all industries above. Because if the lowest person is making $30,000 a year or $40,000 a year, then that means that the management can make 90.
A rising sea lifts
all
all
boats. That's why minimum wage is important. But I see a really good question here. I want to kind of get to it. It's Simeon Ybarra who had a bunch of questions, which we're not going to get to.
Simon Ybarra.
Yeah, thanks, because So it says, what are we going to do about deactivation and the deactivated drivers from airport runs completely? That's a great question, and I can tell you this. We do not know just yet because we have not gone into the negotiating phase of being a union, okay? We're not a union yet, so we can't tell you one way or another what's going to happen.
But what we can say is that we are going to fight very hard for there to be a much better, transparent system for deactivation.
And we will fight to try and get people deactivated. Activated again. You can guarantee that we will fight to get them reactivated.
Well, here's the thing, though. Like,
it's something else.
When you're an employee, there is a much stickier process for removing a worker from the workplace, and that means that Lyft and Uber will have to have a lot more structures in place to kind of handle those sort of deactivations, and there'll be a lot more oversight about how they handle that, and they'll be a lot more exposed to things like inappropriate dismissals.
Yeah.
Like if you get fired for a bad reason, you have the right to sue the company to say that they fired me illegally, they fired me for improper reasons. Like, we don't have that right as independent contractors. But as employees, we would have the right to say, it's like, we think that the company...
I think California has a no cause
firing
law. So I don't believe you can sue your employee for firing you.
You can if it's under certain conditions, like it's like sexual harassment, something like that.
If it's retaliation for something or discrimination or something like that. But just because they decided to let you go, I don't believe.
No, they can't do that. But the thing is that so many deactivation stories center around stuff like harassment, around inappropriate dismissal. That gives us, at least, if you were the victim of something like that, where you were doing everything that you needed to do, and the company fired you because they said some bullshit, like some BS about like sexual harassment, or that they got rid of you because you spoke to the media about how bad the conditions are, you would at least have recourse to be able to get your job back.
We definitely recognize there's a lot of unfair deactivations happening. And especially at the airport, I'm pretty sure you got that letter with fraudulent activity. And there is no process to appeal deactivations right now. There is no fair process of deciding that you're deactivated. It just pretty much comes from them. And, obviously I'm pretty sure you're familiar with trying to go into the hub and talk to them about it and all that. So it's definitely something on the agenda. It's definitely something on the driver's bill of rights that we have. To have a fair process to deactivations and some kind of appeal process. And that's one of the main things that we're going to be fighting for.
Now, personally, what I would like to see, what I envision in my head is if somebody throws a complaint on you that gets you shut off from the app, I would like to see that both of you have your quote-unquote day in court in front of an arbitrator where the passenger can come in with the complaint and you can come in to represent yourself, so you guys can talk about what exactly happened to see if we can come to some kind of resolution. And if somebody doesn't show up, then you can get reactivated, or if you don't show up, then I guess you stay deactivated. But we're going to try and fight for staying activated.
There should be a non-company commission.
Oh, absolutely.
That's made up of drivers and outside folks who look at each case individually and make a determination off of that. Because right now it's really, the power is completely in the company's hands. And from my opinion, it just seems like how deactivations work is if the case seems like such a pain in the ass, doesn't matter if you're innocent. If the case is a pain in the ass for the company, it's much easier for them to just deactivate you and say goodbye because you can be easily replaced. Than actually trying to get to the truth of the matter and try to mete out some basic justice on this and be able to make sure that, well, the driver didn't do anything wrong, driver gets compensated for the time off that he did, we at least can pat ourselves on the back for having done due diligence and made sure that whatever inappropriate behavior it was reviewed and found to be, we made our findings too.
And speaking of deactivations, look, you know, these guys, they have so much power when it comes to deactivations, and like you said, they don't have to pay us for our time that we've lost. You know what I'm saying? And I've had to explain to them, you know, using my own logic as to why they shouldn't deactivate me. I had a problem with somebody who got in my car, and I remember this whole day because I had only done 7 rides that day. I was only in my car for a couple hours. Now what happened was, this person, somebody smoked weed. It was the very first person I picked up, right? And they got out of my car, and then the next person came in, and I guess they smelled the weed. You know, so they thought that I was smoking weed, and I was like, but if this was the very first time, or if I was somebody who smoked weed all the time, you know what I mean? Then this would not be the first time that you've had this complaint out of the 3.5 years that I was driving. I had to use my own intellect to get my activation back, because when I had gone on the very next day, trying to go to work, can't go to work. You know, I missed the whole night. Yeah. You know what I mean? I'm just stuck there with my hands in my pocket. It's crazy.
So we have a question from Facebook. He's asking, how much is it to join Rideshare Drivers United?
It's free. Right now it's free.
Oh yeah, it's free. Yeah.
Yeah, it does not cost anything to join Rideshare Drivers United right now.
Drivers-United.
Drivers-united.org.
Yeah, drivers-united.org. Make sure y'all sign up. You know, take the what is it? Is it not a quiz, but it's.
No, you get to vote. You vote on the Bill of Rights. Vote on the Bill of Rights. Let your voice be on there. Rearrange it, sort it in your order of preference. Spread the word. Let other drivers know about it. The more of us there are, the faster we can get to where we're trying to get to have a legal union and start negotiating and have Uber and Lyft recognize us as a bargaining power and collectively bargain for all of us.
Yeah, every driver that joins us is just a little extra ounce of power, right? And one driver alone may seem like that's not going to change the world, but 5,000 drivers got a bill, one of the most controversial and far-reaching labor bills in the past 40 years past. Imagine what 10,000 drivers can do, or 20,000, or 60,000, or 100,000. So every person that joins RDU contributes just a little bit of their power to help make the rest of us powerful.
Yeah.
And then with enough power, we're able to change the world and make this a lot better of an industry to work in.
Now, just think with what the 5,000 of us did getting AB5 passed. You know what I mean? We caused the governor to sign into law something that's going to help hundreds of thousands of us. Now, imagine if hundreds of thousands of us were already united in a union. There would literally be no mountain that we can't climb. And I want to just real quick. Somebody says, no offense meant to you guys. None taken, maybe. He says...
Depends on what he says.
Depends on what he says, but he says, but will you have a veteran CBA negotiator to face the tough lawyers negotiating for Uber and Lyft?
That's a road that we haven't come down yet. When we get to the moment, we'll be thinking about what our negotiating strategy is going to look like once we have a union that has the power to negotiate.
Listen, you want us on your side. I know we may not seem like much, but all of us have the passion, you know what I mean? And we have a good lawyer, actually. But all of us have the fire to make it equal for all of us because we are drivers.
Exactly. Okay? And because we are drivers, we know what drivers want and need.
We know what we need.
You know, yes, we will definitely have some professionals assisting us and helping us and being there for us. We're going to have the legal team read contracts and do all that.
We have
so there will be the professionals to look out for the stuff. But at the same time, we are the ones that know what we care about as drivers and what we need to have, and that's why it's important to have drivers included. And if at any point you have a team of non-drivers, people that never drove, that want to negotiate on behalf of drivers, I would be very worried because they don't know what driving is like. They don't know what's important for us. They don't know how the games are played with Uber and Lyft. So you need to know somebody. you have to have somebody that's experienced, somebody that is a driver that can look out for the driver's benefits.
And we have good help. Like we have allies here in this state. So we got friends in building and trades union. Building trades union that really came to bat for us. Transportation workers union has come to bat for us. And they're providing a lot of expertise and a lot of resources to help us win these fights and to provide the guidance that we need to be successful once we get to the negotiating table. Sorry, Al. Sorry to cut you off.
I mean, this is what I was gonna tell, because we have a lot of people, a lot of members that they always says that unions just want their money, but they don't realize that this is what we're saying. You know, the unions, yeah, you pay some dues, but that money goes for the lawyers, for all the legal assistance that the drivers need. That somebody who's gonna sit down and read the 400 pages contract that Uber and Lyft sent us. I'm pretty sure nobody has the time to read 400 pages of a contract, before signing it. We just sign it, we keep on driving.
Yeah, exactly.
So the dues goes for the people who's gonna be behind the scene representing all the drivers. A lot of drivers has a misconcept for the misunderstanding for what a unions are, and they always think that the unions are there just to take their money.
Yeah. There are good unions and there are bad unions.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, but this is why I want to clarify to our members that we're here, to help drivers, not to take advantage of them.
The best unions are the ones that are the closest to their members.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
The best unions are the ones that are made up of the people that have done the work, because they understand where they come from and they understand the responsibility that they have for everyone. Exactly, because I've been in the car for 40, 50, 60, 70 hours a week. I know what it's like. So when I go into the negotiation room, or when James or Kareem or Alvaro or any number of us go in that, we know who we're fighting for because we've had to fight for it ourselves.
Yes, exactly. What's up?
Now we're in the final 8 minutes until we have to wrap up. But we do have a really tough question, and I highly doubt that we have an answer for it. And there's a person asking what's going to happen to all of the people who are on I-10 numbers. Do we have any idea what's going to happen?
What, an I-10 number?
I-10. They're basically people who don't have a social security number. And
that is a tough question.
I wouldn't even be able to pretend to answer that.
I talked to somebody. I talked to people who like high rank, on Uber and everything. And this is what they told me. They told me that pretty much Uber is just going to change the status to, instead of classifying us as independent contractors, they're going to call us employees. It's going to change. So if you're already on the system, you shouldn't have a problem if you're already on Uber's system. Okay. But probably you won't be able to apply for Uber if you don't have a social security, after AB5 becomes a law. But this is not an 100% answer, because we still don't know how this is gonna start, how they're gonna operate, how this is gonna. That
is a really good question. Yeah. And I'm sorry that we actually don't have an answer for that. Listen, we are drivers ourselves, so we don't know.
No. And we have friends who exist in that I-10 world, and we want to make sure that whatever happens, that they're protected, that they receive the benefits that they're entitled to as well, that they're busting their ass. I know people who are I-10s who work way harder than I do, and they deserve a lot more for the work that they're doing than they're receiving now. So
they're not getting anything back in taxes.
Yeah, exactly. They don't get any benefits.
Okay, so this is probably going to be the last question we're going to be able to answer.
Maybe. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, we have Nicolette is asking about, can you address how the Uber app says that they're offering a $21 minimum in Los Angeles?
Right. Okay. That $21 an hour minimum, I remember.
Is that okay?
But that's only when the person's in the car.
Well, so it's only when you got somebody in the car. I remember reading that, and it's actually, I think it's closer to 15. Closer to 14 or something like that an hour. So it's not like a real increase of any kind, because you don't get paid for your waiting time or your actual hours on the clock. You're not getting
paid. And that 21 is still covering is supposed to also cover your expenses, is my understanding. So really, it's what they're already doing.
The problem remains the same.
It's exactly all that they've done is re-describe what they already have to make it sound better than it actually is.
Yeah. Uber and Lyft, they're not offering any real change. You got to remember, we have to keep reiterating this, that a company under capitalism, their only goal is to maximize the profit. So you can't necessarily just trust something that they're going to offer you. Besides, anyway, they're offering New York City $27 an hour. Why in the world are they going to offer us 21 in one of the most expensive cities in the entire USA? So you have to always understand that if there's no regulation behind whatever they're doing, what is the incentive for them to try and get us to sign off for $21? They're just trying to preempt what we're going to wind up do for them or do to them, because we're going to take them for what we deserve. Yeah. Okay, $21 is not going to really cover the things that your expenses. It's not really going to.
And notice the play on words. Notice the play on words when they introduce something like this. They're gonna try to make you feel as if it's $21 an hour guaranteed, but that's not true. Really, it's only while you have passengers in the car. So that whole ride has to be has to be an hour long, or you have to have passengers in your car for a full 60 minutes.
Yeah.
And if you have passengers in the car for full 60 minutes, you're gonna make more than $21.
Yeah.
That because that's either a really long trip or you're stuck in traffic, and either way.
You should be making above that anyway. Again,
it's
just the status quo. They just packaged it in something that's more attractive, because that's the language that we're using now. Is what is the minimum?
And what about times when you don't have a person in your car? Like there are times when I finished doing a ride and I've not had anybody in my car for over an hour.
Yeah. But you're still on call.
I'm still on call.
You're still working for them.
And what about 2 months later when they say, "Oh, we're not going to do that anymore"?
Yeah,
that's
they
it. It's
can
gone.
scrap that with no problem.
Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna go ahead and start wrapping it up. And I guess we should probably go individually. So if anybody wants to talk about something that you'd like the drivers to know right now, that would be a good time to.
Somebody real quick says, you have the numbers already as far as the members. Why don't we go ahead and organize already? We don't need the approval of Lyft, because we are at this point independent contractors. Although we are organizing, we're not an official union. We are already organizing but we can't form a union because we're technically independent contractors.
We're forming a union. We're forming a union, and it will be legal come January 1st.
2020.
So we're building the ground game right now to have that union on January 1st. To help negotiate with Lyft and Uber. And it's going to be a hard road, so that's why we need everybody to help make this happen.
We're already doing that right now. So, without their approval, just to answer your question.
No.
I just want to tell people who are against AB5 that everything is negotiable. So your flexibility, your minimum wage, whatever is negotiable. But AB5, once our status change from independent contractor to employees, we're gonna have that power to negotiate the contract and to negotiate a better pay for us and a better solution for the problems that we have. And this is why I'm telling people who are against AB5 to join us, to support us, because without you guys, the fight is gonna be harder. Because AB5, the bill already passed, but that doesn't mean that Uber and Lyft are gonna follow the law.
Absolutely.
I just want to tell drivers that AB5 is a big win for us, and this win will be completed by our union becoming legal and getting bigger and bigger. And there's nothing to be scared about. There's nothing to fear, whether it's flexibility or are we making minimum wage or this or that. These are all terms that we as a union, once we're a recognized legal union, we can negotiate with these companies, and our power is in our numbers. So if you have any friends out there that are not a part of RDU already, spread the word, let them know about it, and together we can fight this and make this happen. It's going to take, so we're not there yet, but we're getting closer, and we're going to get there as long as we stick together.
Yep.
And I just want to say that you drivers, you have a lot more power than you think that you have.
Yeah.
You might think that you're powerless. And it might feel like these companies have gotten away with murder and that nothing is ever going to get better, and it just can lead to this spiraling depression of feeling like the world is just crushing you. But when we come together, when we have solidarity with each other, we can accomplish amazing things that makes things better, not just for ourselves, but for everyone. The work that we do for RDU is not just for us, but for all gig economy workers, and generally all workers here in America. And you have the power to fix this. You have the power, but only when we work together.
Yeah. So join us at drivers-united.org. All right, so that we can get this unity going, we can get this union going, we can fight for better rights for everybody. I'm James Hicks for Rideshare Drivers United.
Alvaro Bolaines.
Kareem Bayomi.
And Tyler Sandness.
All right, we got Ben.
Yeah, thank you, Ben.
Thanks, man.
Big Ben. Big Ben. Oh my God.
Oh God, you got
I keep coming up with these nicknames.
Oh dear, Ben. Poor Ben.
We out.
All right, are we?
All right, well, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. This will conclude it. Please like and share, and we will be having other streams hopefully in the future.
Good night.
Hey.
Cheers, folks. Nice. That one. I think that went really well.
You